So today we had the horrific bombings in Brussels, but I want to give you perspective on all the bombings that have been happening throughout the world recently. This is nowhere near a complete list, but I wanted you to see that it's not just Europe and the US that gets affected. We've got to be cognizant of that as we go to find a real solution here. So today, 31 killed and 230 injured in Brussels. Well, just a couple of days ago, on March 19th, Istanbul, there were 5 killed and 36 injured. And then in Ankara on March 13th, just less than a week before that, there was 37 killed and 127 injured. And a month before that, on February 17th, another bombing in Ankara, in Turkey's capital, 29 killed, 60 injured. And then before that, in January 12th of 2016, in Istanbul, 13 killed, 14 injured. Before that, in Paris, there was November 13th, 2015, 130 killed, 368 injured. That is among the larger bombings, and obviously the whole world took note of that. In Beirut, on November 12th of 2015, that was just one day before the Paris bombing, 43 killed, 239 injured. Now, that was an enormous bombing that we hardly took note of. Istanbul is partly in Europe, but when the bombings happened there, not much note. Turkey is not in the middle of a war zone right now, and neither is Lebanon. Lebanon is not in Syria, it's not in Iraq. Lebanon has not been peaceful in the past, but right now, there is no civil war in Lebanon. You can't just say, oh, there's a mess in the Middle East, so, oh, that's normal. And I get it that a lot of people in the West relate more to people in the West. It's part of human nature. I understand that. And there's also a feeling of like, the Middle East, it's such a mess. And I don't know what to get mad or sad about anymore. But we have to be human. And we have to look out for all of us together, right? Another bombing in Ankara on October 10th of 2015. 102 killed, 246 injured. In Pakistan, in Peshawar, in March 16th of 2016, so very recently, 14 killed, 53 wounded. In Nigeria, bombing on March 16th as well, 24 killed, 18 injured. So it goes on and on. Now I want to show you some of the pictures from those attacks. So you're going to see what unifies us, unfortunately, is the disaster of all these bombings looking incredibly similar. So this is Brussels that you're seeing. That's the airport in Brussels. And that is after a bomb went off. And those are pictures all from today. And as we look at that, the whole world grieves. And I'm not asking you to do anything controversial. I'm asking you to grieve as well when it happens in other places and to be unified. We're all Brussels. We're all Paris. But we should also all be Ankara. That's a scene out of Ankara when the bombings happened, which was very, very recently. So this is also Ankara. That's the capital of Turkey. It's the second largest army in NATO, by the way, a NATO ally. And that is a bus like you would see in any country, in the US, in Europe, in Tel Aviv. It was a bus bombing that killed all the civilians inside. This is the attacks in Istanbul. And looks like a lot of the European capitals you've seen, Istanbul is not a capital, but a city half in Europe and half in Asia. That's the prime minister. This is the Paris attacks. So police, the injured, the mayhem. Then you go to Beirut. And this is the mayhem that happened there. And the tragedy is the same either way. And oftentimes, these attacks are done by the same exact group. They're not all ISIS. There's some Kurdish terrorist groups in there that did the bombings, according to the Turkish government. But a lot of that was ISIS, and a lot of that was radical fundamentalist Muslims. And so they've killed Westerners, they've killed Christians, they've killed people in the Middle East, they've killed people in Europe, they've killed people in Asia, and we should weep for all of those people. And they've certainly killed Muslims. In fact, they've killed more Muslims than any other group. So when you hear people saying that we should go get the Muslims, well, don't worry, ISIS already did it for you. The question isn't whether you should attack Muslims. The question is, who did this and how can we target them and make sure we bring them to justice, instead of saying, hey, it only counts when we are bombed and we should target all of the Muslims in the country, in the world. There's Shia Muslims, there's Sunni Muslims, there's great divisions within Muslims, Arabs, Turks, Kurds, Persians, and we should weep for all the victims, both the Christians, Muslims, and others. So get some context and perspective for what happened. Today was a terrible day in Brussels. I know some folks in Brussels, not many, but a couple. I checked in with them and incredibly relieved to find out they were okay. I did the same in the bombings in the different parts of the world. And so we've got to be united as one world and fight the real problem here, fundamentalism, and understand that we're all victims of this fundamentalism as it drives us further and further into war, violence, and conflict. This is the result. We've got to be smarter in how we fight back.